Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here with all of you. As she said, this is my first opportunity to address this distinguished crowd. I would tell you that I want to thank FedScoop for putting it together and giving me the opportunity to talk about information technology, which is shaping the future of our Army. I know that we have leaders from just about every federal agencies here today. And although that our organizations have very different responsibilities, we all are confronted with many different and sometimes the same challenges, and we're seeking for the same solutions or the outcomes. Whether it's moving systems, applications, and data to the cloud, increasing our mobility capability, employing big data analytics, building software-defined networks, or doing this all while confronting a diverse and very real cyberspace threat. That's why forums like this is such a valuable opportunity to gain ideas from across the interagency community. So this afternoon, I want to share just 3 overarching thoughts with you today. First, I would like to give you some ideas of how our Army is transitioning from the operations that it's been involved with for the last 15 years, where our Army is in action today, and how we are preparing to meet our global requirements for tomorrow. Second, I would like to talk a little bit about modernizing our Army network. The Army network is truly the ties that binds our global force together, and this modernized network is absolutely vital to our current and future Army. And third, I would like to share just a few thoughts on where and what we see the game-changing technologies will be for the Army in the future. So, my first point is today's Army is a force that is simultaneously in transition, in action, and preparation for very complex operations. We are in transition from nearly 15 years of sustained deployments in support of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. That means that we were retaining our soldiers, repairing our equipment, while supporting a new generations of veterans, wounded warriors, and their families. And at the same time that we're transitioning, today's Army is also very much in action. Right now, as we meet this afternoon, there are Army soldiers supporting combat operations throughout the Middle East and Central Asia. In fact, there are more than 40,000 soldiers operating in 12 nations across the Middle East and Afghanistan. In addition, we have 80,000 soldiers supporting operations throughout the Pacific and the Asian theater of operations. We have more than 36,000 soldiers in Europe, demonstrating our commitment to NATO and our European partners. And as recent events such as Ukraine and the terrible attacks in Paris this last Friday, the security of the European ally remains under threat, and we must pay attention to that. In fact, I just came back from Europe, where I've had the chance to view the largest NATO exercise conducted in more than a decade. It involved more than 36,000 service members from 30 different countries, and so imagine talking about communication challenges with that size force. We also have over 7,000 soldiers enabling humanitarian assistance and supporting other U.S. government agencies throughout Africa, along with more than 4,000 soldiers conducting exercises and working with our partner nations across the Caribbean in Central and South Americas. We have a team of soldiers defending our critical networks against cyber attacks. Some of these operations you hear about in the news, and some you may not. However, my point is that the U.S. Army remains in action today in places around the globe. And we are both in transition while we're fighting in the last 15 years, but we remain in action today. The Army is preparing for this kind of complex and diverse environments while we're confronting with a diverse and looking at the opportunity to move into the future. We live in a world today where we cannot reliably predict who we will fight, where we will fight, or what allies or coalition partners might fight alongside of us. That means preparing an Army that is more flexible, agile, innovative, versatile, and can rapidly deploy anywhere in the world and be prepared to accomplish any diverse range of missions. Our soldiers have been prepared to move quickly and skillfully by providing disaster relief, to training our allies, to engaging in combat, sometimes all within just a few days or hours. So that gives you some idea of where our Army is at right now and what kind of future we are preparing for. So now, the second overarching thought I wanted to share with you this afternoon is how we are modernizing the Army network, which is absolutely critical to our service and how it's truly the ties that bind our future force of today and tomorrow. When I use the word Army network, I am referring to all of the information systems and IT capabilities that connect our force together. Our goal in modernizing the Army network is to build a secure, integrated, standards-based network that ensures uninterrupted global access with the right information at the right time, from back here at the U.S. to all the way to the soldiers on the furthest edge in the most austere and remote battlefield. And a key part of our network modernization has been the implementation of something that we call JRSS, or the Joint Regional Security Stack. You can think of JRSS as a firewall on steroids. JRSS performs critical firewall functions that includes intrusion detections and preventions, enterprise management, and virtual routing and forwarding. The Army is now teaming with the Air Force and the Defense Information Agency to execute the migration to the JRSS. Currently, the implementation is ongoing at more than a dozen military sites in the United States and overseas. When it's all over, we expect to have 23 JRSS sites worldwide that are processing unclassified traffic and 25 sites for classified traffic. The Army is beginning to migrate other parts of our forces that is currently operating their own separate networks behind the JRSS. That includes the Corps of Engineers, the Army National Guard, and the Reserve. When we've finished this task, we'll have over 60% of the total Army all on one Army network behind the JRSS sites. Overall, the part of the Army network modernization effort will reduce our network surface attack area from about 1,000 separate access points to about 50, which is really a big deal in our business. Another priority for modernizing and improving our Army network is to establish home station mission command centers. At the Army's commands and the installations like places like Fort Hood, Fort Bragg, Joint Base Lewis McChord, these are locations, and others like them are the major hubs of the U.S. Army and where we will deploy from for those future fights. Remember a few minutes ago that I mentioned how many soldiers that are deployed all over the world. Well, today, even more so in the future. Those soldiers and their units will deploy from major hubs in U.S. locations around the globe. They will need to deploy quickly, sometimes with a lighter footprint. This means that they won't take as much communication equipment with them as they did in the past. As a result, our deployed soldiers will need a modernized network to reach back that has the bandwidth, the capacity, and the ability to connect back here at U.S. or home station command centers and provide them the critical information that they need. These centers will tie our global deployed forces together and allow continuous situation awareness and enable uninterrupted flow of information from home station, while en route, and from operations anywhere in the world. This means that we have to increase our network capacity. The Army backbone currently runs at about 10 gigabytes per second. The key to increasing bandwidth for us is the multi-protocol labeling switching, or MPLS, technology, which we have expanded to our Army network's backbones, which will improve it from 10 gigabytes to 100 gigabytes, providing the forces dramatically expanded connectivity and capability. Other major priorities for the Army network team includes the Unified Capabilities, or UC. UC will provide real-time communication to include voice, video, data, and at an enterprise level in partnership with the Defense Information System Agency. By centralizing these services and integrating them through our sister services, users will get more capability more quickly, all the way down to the soldiers fighting on the edge of the battlefield. Now, another priority for us is the data center consolidation and apps migration. As you know, many of our agencies are also working this very hard. To date, the Army has closed approximately 48% of our data centers. By decreasing the number of Army data centers, owned data centers, and moving data and applications into a core data center that we will share with other services, we will improve the availability of information, increase security, and save costs all the time. Data center consolidation is closely tied to our cloud computing initiative, where the Army is implementing a series of plans and policies to leverage the commercial cloud service providers. In fact, we released a cloud computing strategy and a commercial service provider cloud policy this past year. And we're looking at several cloud pilots there at West Point, there with the Corps of Engineers, as well as Redstone in Alabama. Now, even though I am the Army Chief Information Officer, I am focused on the Army. It is important to note that the Army is almost in every operation, is not in every operation as alone. At a minimum, we operate alongside of the Navy, the Air Force, the Marine Corps, and Coast Guard, and just as often with our interagency partners, many who are here in the room today. And within the Department of Defense, we frankly have had some challenges in building an IT system that we can communicate with each other. I mentioned all of those partners, but we have a hard time, one, talking within the Army, and then talking with all of those partners. But I won't spend too much time on this because my colleague, Dave DeVries, and I'm teeing him up, will probably have something to say about how we're fixing all that. And what he will talk about is that new acronym, what we call the Joint Information Environment, or JIE. It is a major effort to improve our network capacity across the different military services in DoD. Because right now, in DoD, we have too many disparate networks, too many vulnerabilities for our adversaries to exploit, and too many barriers and firewalls between our partners. The Joint Information Environment will give all of us in the Department of Defense a single joint network with one shared infrastructure with one set of standards that everyone in the Department of Defense will operate on. For those of you who are interested in leaning further in what the Army is looking for in the future, I want to tell you where we're headed to in the near term and midterm. As you look at our documents that are on site, I want to let you know that there's some game-changing technology that we're looking at. Some of you may be aware that the DoD has established a Defense Innovative Unit experimental out at Silicon Valley at Moffett Field this past August. The intent is to increase the department's access to high-tech startup companies and entrepreneurs in the Valley, and to make us smarter customers on the products that we are thinking to invest in or building on. I think the Defense Innovation Unit is another effort that you'll be hearing from in the near and midterm. As a follow-on to the Army Network Campaign Plan, we are developing a long-range strategy that is science and technology focused, and it has the information enterprise in the out years from 2025 to 2040. Again, we're working on a strategy that we will release to the public by second quarter of next year that focuses on 2025 and goes out to 2040. The strategy will look at the Army's need and what we need during that time frame, game-changing technology and capabilities that are on the horizon. A few key technology areas that we're looking at includes the software-defined networking. In the Army context, a software-defined network architecture is more dynamic, manageable, and flexible because it implements software controls and devices using open standards, and that's where we want to go. We really want to move from the hardware-defined environment, moving to a software-defined environment. The outcome for the Army is to be more agile, cost-effective, have a cost-effective network that relies on less hardware upgrades, which are expensive these days and time-consuming when we need to change to meet the demands of the operations mentioned earlier. A software-defined network leverages the availability, the Army organic and commercial networking resources that can reconfigure rapidly using more centralized command and control models. So we are looking hard at other ways to enhance situation awareness as well for our soldiers on the battlefield. We want a future network that provides shared common operating picture with background information and enhanced real-time analytics to expose patterns and provide insights into their causes and effects. Again, we are looking at a situation awareness technique or capabilities that provides a common operating picture for the soldiers that are on the battlefield. We're also looking at robotics as a potential to impact the operations by making the battlefield safer for our soldiers, allowing the soldiers to engage the enemy at a greater distance, and provide improved logistics and supplies support for our forces. These are just a few of the game-changing technologies that we're looking at. And again, working with the S&T community, working with our think tanks, working with our headquarters staff, we are putting together that document that will be out on the street by second quarter of next year. We want to make sure that our industry partners have an idea of where we're headed, to make sure you do the right investments and that we partner together as we move down the road into the future. And I would just tell you that, again, I'm very happy to be here. Those are just a few thoughts that I want to share with you of what we're doing within the Army, things that we're doing with our network, and the things that we're looking at as we look at 2025 to 40. Thank you very much. God bless you all. And as we say in my business, Army strong.